Hi, Jeff. We are live, just so you know, with all of our good buddies out there in public media land.
Excellent. Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be joining you guys.
So let me go ahead and I'll do a very brief introduction, and then we can go ahead and get started. So friends, thank you for being here. And I know some of you were on the session that we just had with Deb Ashmore, where she was talking about analysis. She was really discussing very deeply how Passport is the way to acquire and retain members on the TV side. She talked a little bit about the radio side, but for those of you that are interested in TV, we're so fortunate to have had Deb talk, and then now Jeff is going to speak about Passport and the things they're doing at WETA. So I am going to do a brief introduction. We are here to listen to strategies for maximizing Passport 2.0, where we'll be discussing testing, evaluating, and pushing the envelope with Passport. I'm very pleased to be joined by Jeff Reagan, Vice President, Membership Marketing and Development Services at WETA, my hometown station. He's with us today. Yeah, woohoo! And before I turn things over to Jeff, I just wanted to let you all know that you are muted, but please chat your questions to us in the chat box, and we'll jump in and we'll pose those questions to Jeff as he's going along. So real interaction, Q&A, and I think that's about it. So Jeff, I'm going to close out my webcam. I'm going to turn things over to you to present, and we look forward to your presentation. Thanks a lot.
Christina, thanks so much. So I'm a fan of Deb Ashmore's actually, and a fan of the great work that CVA does for our sector and for so many great stations. So thank you guys for welcoming me. This beautiful artwork here, I'd like to claim that I did it myself, but I don't know if I have that level of artistic talent. I think my son and daughter are deserve actually all the credit for it. But excited to be with you guys here and talk a bit about Passport. As Christina mentioned, please interrupt with questions, type them in. Christina will pass them on and let me know when you're asking questions. Oops, here we go. So I'm going to dive in. So we do have a bunch of topics that are all related. These are basically strategies for maximizing Passport, if you will, 2.0. The first topic is kind of the most 1.0 among these topics. So we're kind of briefly go through a little bit about multi-channel campaigns. And multi-channel campaigns are key, and particularly leveraging hits like All Creatures Great and Small. That's what ACGAS is, All Creatures Great and Small. Then we'll talk about leveraging hits even more, and at other key times using targeted premiums, notably Roku's. Then we'll talk about how do we increase the value of the Passport donors that come in via trying an annual sustainer program. How do we acquire even more Passport donors and retain more of them and increase their value further? Through acquiring dramas from BBC Studios. And finally, we're getting all these donors in. I don't know if Deb Ashmore talked to you about the lifetime value element, but we're going to dig a bit into the lifetime value element deeper actually than Deb does. Because when you look at Passport donors, it's not just about that initial gift, it's about the long-term value and also about the long-term net value. So we'll talk about that for Passport and also for other new and rejoining donor acquisition channels. So with that, we will dive in. So, whoops, okay, there we go. Let's talk about leveraging hits briefly. So, I think we pretty much all know this, but Passport is a content-driven channel. Every single one of these peaks that you see here has some content behind them. I only highlighted some of the top ones, but this is Victoria season 2 back at the beginning of 2018. And then we fast forward through some smaller hits and sometimes actually several at the same time to the fall of 19 when we had country music and the final season of Poldark basically hit at the same time. And that led to the biggest peak for WETA, and I think for most stations in quite a long time, probably really since Vietnam and Poldark back in the fall of 2017. So that was we're pretty excited about that. And I should just say, let me take one step back. What we're seeing here is the weekly level of passport donations at WIDA. So every one of these, as this goes up and down, it's weekly donations through passport donation forms. It dropped again after the country music Poldark, went up again in Sanditon. That was like, woo! We thought we were living the high life with all those donors coming in from Sanditon last January. And then of course the pandemic hit, and the pandemic created a new normal, and a new normal that we as stations have the opportunity to leverage. Obviously about the bad things about the pandemic, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't, appropriately better serve our viewers by giving them lots of great content and marketing channels they want to view us through, such as streaming and passport. So we had the pandemic. Most of you have some kind of a spike here. We really leaned heavily into that and promoted passport very heavily. We also had a hit at the time, The World on Fire, which contributed to it. And then we did actually 2 different Roku campaigns, which really led to even furthering some of these spikes last April, May. Died down, but you notice even at the lowest levels under the pandemic, we're still way above what we were prior to the pandemic. Here's a Roku campaign that led to a spike. Little spikes are content. Actually, another Roku campaign here. There's another little spike. And then, of course, right now, we're sort of at the later stages of it, but over the last month and a half, All Creatures Great and Small, along with Miss Scarlet and the Duke, and all the great content, but especially the creatures. And we added to that with an additional Roku campaign. So when you see content, leverage it, and also frankly opportunities like the pandemic. These are times to leverage and to promote passport heavily. How do we do that? Multi-channel campaigns. We found significant bump from multi-channel campaigns. The most important channel is still email in the multi-channel campaigns. So send emails to your lapsed and prospect, directly asking them to, offering them the chance to immediately binge watch all Creatures and Miss Scarlet and other great series as a member with Passport. It's a great way to convert your prospects. It's actually the killer app. Email is the killer app for Passport. It's really the killer app for converting those prospects we get from PBS into donors. And then great for getting lapsed donors to rejoin too, and also radio donors as well, by the way. Send passport pics to your active. That should be doing not just with big hits, but all the time. Promote it in your e-newsletter. Robust website promotion. Here, just have an example. This is our homepage. We had all creatures featured, along with stream the entire series of WIDA Passport, a prominent link. We also, that was rotating carousel. We also have a prominent box right below it for all creatures and for Miss Scarlet. Do TV spots, radio spots, magazine, direct mail. You can put in your copy and buck slips, social. Consider paid ads. This is our Roku ad that we put up on Roku to attract more people through All Creatures. Facebook ads and search engine marketing, Google ads and the like are great too. Just to give you one example, we will show our All Creatures spot that we played, still playing a lot, but especially played like crazy for the first 5 weeks or so of All Creatures. Let's see. Oops. Let's get back. There we go. Okay. Here we go.
I did a little shot for you, wanting to be a vet. I developed a real love for the animals. And who is this?
James Elliott, Mr. Parliament's new assistant.
Another one.
Another one?
Yes. Another one. Let's see what you make of that shot.
Just make it 3 days.
You've got many horses before. This will be my first.
Are you going to review? Do you take your fancy? Can I see you sometime? You've got a dream. You've got to chase it.
Binge the entire series with WTA Passport on the PBS video app.
So that's our All Creatures spot. We actually had a second one that we rotated with this. It was kind of All Creatures and Masterpiece Collection. And at our station, we had those as really kind of run of schedule all the time in the peak weeks, and actually they're still running quite a bit, though I think we'll kind of tail off for the next couple weeks.
Jen.
Yep.
Hi, we have some great questions that have just come in. I'm going to pose those to you. All
Great.
right. So there are two. So someone says, I see Roku, but how has Amazon Prime and Fire impacted Passport? We've seen many new donors due to these avenues. What have you done with the Roku campaign? Is there anything similar in store for Amazon? When you're done, I do have a second question.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding the question, because I think there's a couple things there. So one element of this is the ads. So we have done Roku ads in terms of, this is meaning actually going, you pay money in your market, you pay Roku, and they place ads, and it's all kind of self-service. It's actually pretty easy to do. They have a self-service ad function where you go in and you upload the creative and you decide on your budget. You can choose how much to spend, and it's pretty limited in terms of the targeting. There's sort of some basic targeting you want to target, and then you run those ads for a specified period of time. We have not done it on Apple TV or Fire TV yet. Andy Trimlett and the folks at PBS SoCal have certainly done Fire TV. I think they've actually done Apple TV as well. But I think that's a great option, is those types of ads. If I understood correctly, Christina, correct me if I didn't get this quite right, but it sounded like it was also asking about Fire TV in terms of using the new Fire TV one-click donation. Was that?
I think so, but yes, that would be wonderful for you to elaborate on.
Sure. So yes, PBS has developed a system of essentially their one-click donation. It's also the T-Vault is the system behind it. So you hear about OneClick or T-Vault. It's all talking essentially about the same thing, where when you're in the Fire TV device, you can go through, and instead of having to go to pbs.org, well, actually, you go through, basically, there's a long URL currently that people type in, or they go directly to your website at pbs.org. They're linked to your donation form for Passport, and then they donate through Fire TV. You can do that all in the app. So the good news is that it's a lot smoother process, and I think certainly some stations should consider testing it. I would encourage stations to consider testing it. One thing to kind of be aware of, and PBS knows this, right now it's only on Fire TV. Someday the hope is that it will come to other platforms, but Fire TV is not our biggest platform. Roku is frankly by far the biggest platform across the system. Fire TV, depending on the station, is about 8-10% or so of donations. It's really kind of more of a test platform. There's a couple downsides too. You do pay some fees, and it seems like there's some questions we have about, are these people not quite as attached to the station? You don't have as much control over them, so there's a little more back end work. But I think it's important for stations to try it and to test it and learn, so that then we can kind of evaluate, eventually, I don't think this is super soon, but eventually, if Roku will someday agrees to this, or other platforms agree to this someday, in a couple of years, it expands, what it would look like and how we would maximize it on that platforms. And I should say, even before, it may be a long time before we have some sort of one-click solution for Roku. I think that's frankly not soon. Roku in the past has said no, and Apple TV has said no as well. But there's some smaller platforms that PBS is exploring, which it might expand to in the near term. So short answer, I would encourage stations to try it. I think it's still kind of a test platform. And one of the things that we're doing within the Passport Station user group is we're working with PBS to put together some metrics to evaluate how it's performing. Like the average gift tends to be lower, but the sustainer rate tends to be higher. We have to look at the conversion rate. So we're gonna, it's a good thing to test, and I encourage stations that have the capacity to try it and test it.
Okay, I admit about 6 more questions came in while you were talking. Wow. So okay. Do you want me to ask?
I have to speed up the answers.
Okay. So someone wants to know about how, let me see. When you know what content has brought someone on, has driven them to become a member, do you then separate that person or those people out into other groups so you can do targeted messaging around genre?
Yeah, it's a great question. The short answer is we don't. It's not because we haven't thought of it. It's not because we haven't discussed it, I don't know, 20 times. GBH has done some testing around this. They did not see a big lift. They actually did some of it. They saw a little lift. I don't want to, they didn't see no lift, but it was pretty small. And they saw a small enough lift that they were not gung-ho about it. And there's so many other things that we want to do that it's still on our list, but frankly, it's not top of our list. It's kind of on the, I don't know, it's still on the 6 month or a year wait list. And so I don't know when we'll get to it, but it's on the list. The system, GBH in particular, I think one of the stations we've tried have not seen a big lift from it, just a small lift. I will say, however, looking at how often, how frequently, recency and frequency of streaming, that tells you a lot about how likely they are to retain. And that can be maybe even actually a better way of segmenting.
Okay, more questions. Let's shift now to, well, no, I'll stick with the similar questions. How do you balance passport promotion with tune-in promotion? What's your approach, especially with on-air and digital promotion?
So we have a really tight connection right now to our TV team, and actually our local team. So the head of local for us, because we're a little different from other stations, we're a national producer. So we have kind of a head of our local TV, radio, and digital media. We collaborate very closely. I realize that's not true at all stations, and frankly, that wasn't always true at WIDA, to be honest. But we have a sort of some newer leadership there and have built a tight bond. I would encourage you all, partner as closely as you can. And the ties aren't just at sort of the senior level, the ties are also at other levels. Build the ties across teams between yourselves and the content creators, because we're really hand in glove. We raise money, it provides the funds for them for local programs and acquisitions and everything they want, and they provide the content, which is why we're here and that we support. We understand that our metrics are their metrics and their metrics are our metrics. So we really have that type of view, and that allows us to kind of robustly promote both. So yes, of course, we do a bunch of tune-in as a station, and we also do a bunch of passport and streaming. What we actually do is, this is not part of this presentation, but we do a ton of promo of the app and streaming mixed in. So every single, I'm trying to blank on the TV term for it, but the coming up, every single hour, half hour, it has coming up. It'll say, coming up, Nova at 9 and Nature at 10 and so on. And it'll say, it'll have the stream on the PBS video app will pop up there every single hour when those shows are relevant. And depending on the show, like for promos, we'll have the voiceover at the end along with the image. So we're sort of constantly promoting both. And then the passport specific promos, what we do is it'll be kind of light until we get a hit like All Creatures, and then there'll be a ton of it. We'll tell our TV folks and our radio folks, look, this is a hit. It's time to go all out on the promo for it. And they'll say yes. And they'll go all out on the promo. And then in other times when there's no hit, there's still a little bit of passport promo, but we do sort of more integrated app promotion and less of the, it's probably a higher ratio of tune-in.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna leave you alone for a bit and I'll pop back up in a while with some more questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Great, and I'm realizing I had not anticipated this many questions. I think I'm gonna try and go somewhat quickly through slides, but please tell Christina if I'm going too fast.
Okay.
Because I realize that I have a fair number. So just let her know if I should slow down.
Okay.
Okay. This is kind of both during hits and as a general rule, CBA does this. So, send out passport pics. On the left-hand side, you have passport pics. They get a high open rate. I think that's true for everyone across the system. And if you haven't sent out, we send them out weekly. We used to send them out monthly and then bi-weekly. And then under the pandemic, we started weekly. And the pandemic, lots more appetite for streaming newsletters in the pandemic. Also, under the pandemic, we started a weekly FVOD, so streaming pics to our lapsed and prospects, and also ineligible, not activated. And 17% open rate for that group is frankly pretty darn high. So we've had a lot of success with that. It's mostly a chance just to get them engaged, and then when they find content they like, they periodically obviously upgrade to Passport. And then we also sneak in here, every week. You'll see this Watch from Scarlet Duke. At the end, we say, or binge the entire series right now on Weta Passport, and that links to our Passport donation form. Same for all creatures. So it's a good way to market. We get a handful or a couple of handfuls of donations every week from that. Okay, moving on to premiums, and we're just really talking about Rokus today. So Rokus are great. They're great premiums for Passport campaigns. They are especially great under the pandemic. I'm going to start on the right side here. So we did a Roku campaign in December, kind of, get your Roku as a holiday gift. Lots of people are getting are interested in streaming devices in the holiday season. We did that in December of 19, so pre-pandemic, and we were pleased with the results. So $6,000, 46 donations from lapsed and prospects. That's pretty darn good. We were pleased by that. We tried it with Sanditon in January, kind of middling results. We thought we wouldn't do it again, and maybe until the next December. But then the pandemic came along, and so we decided to try it first in early April, and then it did so well, we did it again at the end of April. And for us, $88,000, 445 donations, overwhelmingly lapsed and prospects, new and rejoins from a multi-channel campaign. That is great. I don't know, I can't remember the last time we had we've never had it, just a sort of email and general multi-channel non-pledge campaign that's done something like that. That was fabulous for us. We've done a lot more of them. We did one over the summer. We did one in December. We actually just did one with All Creatures Great and Small. So to seriously consider, how do you make it work? Multi-channel campaigns, we talked about that. The most important part is the emails, and then you can add a website, and we always have TV and radio spots running and social and the like. What we found has worked best is that the urgency countdown type mentality. We offer them at $10 a month or a one-time gift of $120, and you'll see, but hurry, you only have until Sunday at midnight to take advantage of this special offer, and supplies are limited. We always, we have a lead-up email a couple days before while the spots are running, and the donations trickle in. And that last day, we usually send 2 emails that last day, and the donations pour in before the deadline. Moving on. And if you do have questions, you can type them in, but I'm otherwise moving on. So we've talked about acquiring Passport donors a bit with the multi-channel campaigns and increasing their value through Roku, bringing in kind of $10 a month donors. How about other methods such as annual sustainers? So we asked ourselves this question: how can we increase the value of our one-time Passport donors, and can we do it through an annual sustainer program? Our monthly Passport donors have a very high retention rate, first-year retention rate of 75 to 80%. My guess is that you all have something in that general ballpark. Our one-time Passport donors, much lower. It's a bit above TV pledge, but not that much. It's about 30% for us. So a huge gap between kind of the 30% to almost 80%. And we were wondering, for all these one-time donors that we're bringing in, which is really about half of them through Passport, can we find a way to have less of them come at this 30% retention rate through an annual sustainer program? Well, we asked ourselves 5 questions to see if this were true. 1, will donors choose to become annual sustainers? So are they even interested in this? 2, can we maintain our monthly sustainer ratio? We want to make sure that we're not robbing our monthly sustainers to get annual sustainers. 3, is the donation form conversion rate the same? So we want to make sure this doesn't hurt our donation form conversion rate. Do these annual sustainers have a strong retention rate? In other words, who knows? If we bring in these annual sustainers, maybe they won't retain much better than the regular one-time donors at 30%. And are these donors okay with the experience? Do we get lots of complaints or not? So we're going to answer those questions right now. So 1.
One super fast question, Jeff. The audience wants to know, what was the total pool of lapsed donors you selected for the Roku offer?
The Roku offer, the total pool of lapsed in particular?
Yes.
Well, so we've had a whole bunch of Roku offers. I guess the answer is I don't know. I don't know offhand. I mean, these 3 campaigns alone, here you have, what, that's 600 donors, 650 donors from these 3 campaigns, or 640, I guess. And then we had several more, so we brought in, I don't know, across all the campaigns over the last year, probably close to 1,000. And of those, maybe 400 were lapsed rejoins. That's a ballpark. Something like that.
Okay, that's great.
Sorry, don't know the exact numbers. So on this annual sustainers, what does it look like? On the left, you have our old traditional passport donations were kind of cut off, on desktop, but you come in, a little bit of text. We always promote, the hot show of the moment. Here it's defaulted to monthly. So you always default to monthly. We're not defaulting to monthly. Default your sustainer for your passport form to monthly, always. So we defaulted to monthly. Talk about the great content, particular all creatures, whatever's hot right now. We also have these acquisitions we'll talk about later, like the Diggins Collection, the Jane Austen collection. And then if they toggle to one time, so they toggle the button to one time, this is what they get. Similar form, but it has this box here. And we're not trying to hide it. We want it to be obvious. It's pre-checked. That's very important. It's pre-checked, because otherwise people won't do it. Please set my membership to automatically renew each year. You may update or cancel your membership at any time. So we have that pre-checked, and the people who leave that checked become annual sustainers. So how has it worked? This is what it's looked like. As it turns out, the answer to the first 2 questions is a resounding yes. So yes, people are interested in this. 21% of the donors coming through this form in 2020, we have a lot of donors coming through that form, passport forms. 21% became annual sustainers. So that's quite a bit. And then the great thing is our monthly sustainer rate, it didn't decrease, it actually increased from just over 50% to almost 55%. So our total sustainer rate, if you include the annual and the monthly, increased from 50 to 76%. We basically cut our one times in half. So the answer to the first 2 questions that we asked it's a resounding success. What do these sustainers look like? These annual sustainers, it turns out they're a slightly different pool of people. On the left hand, you have the regular one times and the monthly sustainers. So you'll see 63% new, 23% rejoin. Only 14% are renew or add gift. So the large majority, 86%, are new or rejoins. On the right here, you'll see most are still new or rejoins, just under half new, so a lot less new, about slightly more rejoins. But a full quarter are add gifts and renews. So it's definitely more add gift and renew and a bit less new of these people who are opting for the annual sustainer. Meaning more of them have some kind of a relationship with WIDA already, but still lots of new people opting for the annual sustainer, basically almost half. So do they have a strong retention rate? Much higher than the rate of our regular one-time passport donors who average around 30%. I think it's like 32% now. So this is the preliminary answer. I want to be caveat this preliminary, but the preliminary answer is yes. Honestly, like this substantially exceeded our expectations. So this is a small sample, well, relatively small sample size yet. This is January 2020. So 296 annual sustainers from January 2020. 78% of them we were able to charge their credit card successfully or get their EFT payment in January 2021. So that is a pretty darn high retention rate. Ironically, it's like just 1% below the rate for the January 2020 regular sustainers. So this is very promising. I do want to give the caveat, this is a small sample size, it's early on, and we're still working out some of the elements of the process. So you can feel free to ping me in a couple months and see if this is still such a great rate, and I still think it's working as well as this, but the early returns are promising. So are donors okay with this experience? Well, first, what is the experience? We tell them in two ways that they're doing this. The first is you all saw the description on the donation page, where we explain, essentially that they're getting they're opted in, they're pre-checked. They can uncheck it, but the pre-check box for, annual sustainer pledge. And then we send out an autoresponder, the email autoresponder, and it's very clear there too. We let them know, obviously, that their card is going to be charged in a year, or the EFTs can be, billed in a year. It's an annual donation. And then what we have intended to do, but we've had some technical, we were honestly caught in year-end CYE when this sort of started up, the annual sustainer started up, and so we, in the process of building this, is an email that we'll send out shortly before the card is charged to also let them know. That could reduce the retention rate, but we just feel that that's an important thing to do regardless. So that we'll have to see. We'll have to see that. We think it might both increase sort of general satisfaction, but also decrease retention rate. But we're planning on doing that, and we'll be deployed soon. So what's kind of the result of this? Well, it turns out that some people aren't actually intending to become annual sustainers, but it's pretty small. So we've had thus far, so this is basically throughout 2020 and into, I guess, early 2021, we have had 5,808 annual sustainers. That's a lot of people, almost 6,000 annual sustainers. 98 of them contacted us, typically very shortly after, usually after they got that autoresponder email, or maybe after they press donate. So in the next, few hours or a couple of days after they made that initial pledge, they contact us and they say, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I really just want to make it a one-time gift. And of course, we say, that's fine. And we turn it into a one-time gift. That's only, it's 1.7% of these annual sustainers. So it's a, pretty small percentage of the over, the 98.3% we're keeping as annual sustainers. How about complaints? Great news on the complaint side. We've had exactly one call thus far of the, I guess, 296, and it's not over that, probably 350 or 400 or so that have come through. One person called and said, and they weren't actually upset. They said, oh, I forgot I selected the annual sustainer, and they asked us to cancel it, which of course we did. So thus far, we haven't gotten any blowback of any kind, just one call, which was not upset. So what's our verdict on this? Want to be clear about where we're at. So will the donors choose to become annual sustainers? Absolutely. Is the monthly sustainer ratio maintained? It got better, not worse. So absolutely. We actually have not tested if the donation form conversion rate is, maintained. Our assumption is, we saw tons of donors come in. We plan on testing it, but the pandemic came, and frankly, we were testing and doing other things. We haven't seen any sign of it. It's possible there's a small adverse impact. Maybe we'll test it someday. If you do this, test it. But it doesn't seem to be large. And frankly, with so many new annual sustainers coming in and a high retention rate, even if we lose 1% or 2% on the conversion rate, it's worth it. Do annual sustainers have a strong retention rate? It looks like it. But again, before being confirmed, let's check back in a couple months, but it certainly looks promising. And our donors okay with this experience? Again, I feel like it's pretty early, but it's very promising results. So long and short of this, we think this looks very promising. Okay. Christina, I'm tempted to move on, but is there I know there's a lot. So if you think there's a quick one or two questions from that, or top line themes of questions, let me know.
No, I'd say go on, and at the very end, we'll have some questions from your first section. So please proceed.
Okay, so Passport's great. You're bringing in lots of people. You're conducting multi-channel campaigns, and you want to create more value. So you want to acquire some additional content. Well, great. As it turns out, acquiring content is worthwhile because we already talked about content is queen and king. So why might you want to acquire content? In this case, we're talking about BBC Studios dramas, so dramas from BBC Studios for Passport, and also we acquire them for broadcast as well. 4 reasons. It's a great way to acquire new members via Passport, and you can pay off the investment quickly. It's a great way to get your existing members who love these shows to start streaming with you, and that will increase their retention. We've run those numbers. You get your donors to start streaming with you on Passport, the retention rates will go up. You know, we are to some degree in the streaming wars. Your library of content's key, and it's key to keeping them engaged and retained, as well as attracting new ones. So we believe in the library. And the last thing, you know, I think our system doesn't talk, frankly, enough about this, but we as a system, you know, we're not going to survive in 5 or 10 years if we don't start rapidly growing en masse our streaming viewership. We have to grow our streaming viewership as a system, or you know, those who are still doing mostly broadcast viewing are going to age out. So we view that as an important point. Why now? The pandemic moment. There's lots of folks at home. It's a great time to be acquiring BBC Studios content. You have lots of captive audience to view it, and plug the drama gaps in your schedule. So we all get the same content from PBS, and they do a nice job. But like March is quite light on drama content. May is currently looking light. August is usually light. December is light. So plug those drama gaps. What are our acquisitions? We'll talk through these, but in August, last year, we acquired The Corner. We put together, as of September 1st, a Jane Austen collection, Cranford, Return to Cranford, and then actually mid-December, our Diggins Collection with Dickensian and Little Dorrit, Bleak House, and Scrooge. You'll see the Jane Austen collection here is Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park, Sanditon, already in Passport, and we just added Emma, which aren't in these stats, but we just added Emma. So what are the results? Here's The Corner in its first month. It was number 3 for streams and number 4 for Cume. This is the number of people who streamed, so Cume streamers. So pretty darn impressive. Jane Austen collection, even higher in September, our first month. Number 2 for streams and number 3 for Cume streamers. Also, by the way, Ken Burns collection, not doing bad either. It's not an acquisition, but great collection. How about the Diggins collection that launched on December 16th? For those last half of December, Diggins collection was number one for streams and number 2 for Cume. And you'll notice that even, 4 months later, you see that the Austen collection still doing very well. And then Cranford, which we'd it came in the system in October, but we didn't start promoting it till November. It did solidly as well. So what's the staying power? What do these look like when you look at the whole time period from August to January? So this a 6-month stretch of data. The Austen collection at 5th place, 49,000 streams. That's a lot of streams. The only ones that were higher than it were NewsHour, which is on every night, so there's a ton of them. Walter's Choice, kind of bundle all the Walter's Choice together. All Creatures, the biggest hit ever on Passport, and it's basically tied with Endeavor. But you'll notice it's ahead of Ken Burns collection and Nova and Miss Scarlet and Flesh and Blood and Grantchester and just a ton of others. So there's a lot of streams. The Corner, tons of streams ahead of Flesh and Blood, Grantchester and Vandervalk and Cobra. The Dickens collection, which we only had on for a month and a half of this. So this is, the Dickens collection was not in there for very long, but already at number 14 in just a month and a half. And Cranford, which wasn't much, it's just a couple of, 2 Cranford, Return to Cranford, 2 short series. Frankly, doing pretty well in just 3 months at number 25. And then you'll see the Cume, Austen also strong, Austen number 13, Corner at 22, and Dickens at 23 after just 1.5 months. So good stats.
Jeff, there's a question from the audience. They want to know roughly what have streaming rights cost you?
We will absolutely. It's a great question, but I will get to it. I'm not going to answer that because we'll talk about that when we get to.
Thank you.
That's a great question, though. So what is the, first thing up here, has the Jane Austen collection held? It has, it turns out. So you'll see September was the biggest month and it fell off, but this is not a steep fall. We're still getting a lot of streams and a lot of Cume streamers. You know, a slow fall off for the Austen collection, but lots of streams and streamers still 6 months later for our Jane Austen collection. You'll see Pride and Prejudice is #1. And I will say, some of this in December and January, PBS put Sanditon up, and Sanditon had been a smaller part of the pie and it rose. So some of this is certainly the PBS promo of Sanditon in December and January, but most of this is not. The significant majority is everything else in our promo. Sense and Sensibility also doing well. Mansfield Park doing decently. Northanger Abbey sort of not so much. Streams on the left and Cume on the right, but you can see them. So how about return on investment? Are these shows paying off? So to the question around cost, it depends on the size of your market, but you pay on a per episode basis. So PBS, or not PBS, BBC Studios, your station has a PBS Studios rep, and I have the contact info later. If you don't know the person's name, I have contact info later. But basically your station, your programmer will know your rep, and you all putting on your station are paying, $200 per episode, or $300, or $400, or $500, depending on your size of station, maybe $600. That'd be a lot. That's like WNET or something. But I don't know if any of you are paying that much, but that type of cost per episode. So if you're getting, say, Pride and Prejudice, and let's just say you're a medium large station paying, say pretty large station, say paying $400 per episode for streaming rights for a year. For Pride and Prejudice, there's 6 episodes, that would be $2,400. If you're a smaller station, and I don't know, I just know our stuff cost, but you're paying $200 an episode, then it would be for 6 episodes, it would be $1,200. So, it's some money, and when you add these all up, if you get all of them, it can be a chunk of change, but per series, it's not that much. And the reason we're doing this so much is because they're all working. I will say we tried one a year ago. It's sort of before this recent tranche. It did not perform well for us. Like everything, content is queen and king. And if you think a show's not going to resonate in your market, then I wouldn't get it. But if you're getting ones that resonate in your market, you're in good stead. So what's the return on investment look like? So if you look at just the first gift, and our average first gift is $73. I know it is for your station, but it's got to be north of 60. But whether it's 65 or 70 or 75 bucks, probably something like that. Just looking at the first gift, through just the first 6 months of Corner, we have 91% cost coverage, a whopping 445% cost coverage for Jane Austen collection. So it's paying for itself, many times over already. Cranford, after just 3 months, more than paid for itself. And the Diggins Collection, after just 1.5 months, already paid for itself 60%. But really, I would encourage you to not look at just the return on investment from the first gift, but look on it from the donor lifetime value, which we'll talk a bit about, cruise through, but we'll talk a bit about that at the end. And here you can see just huge returns on investment. The Diggins Collection is the worst after just 1.5 months, already almost doubled to almost 100% positive return, 180%, 7% cost coverage after just a month and a half for lifetime value. And Jane Austen at like 12, 13x return. So good returns. And you should test it for your own station. Make sure it works for you. So how do we do this? How do we maximize the value of these BBC acquisitions after you choose to buy one? So first thing, this is really important. The biggest cost, in a sense, isn't the dollars. It's just you need to be willing to put this. If you're going to invest in getting them, you want to market them, because that's how people know that you have this great content, and that's how they enjoy it. Placement. It's just like real estate. What stations can control right now, and the Passport Station User Group is working with PBS on trying to expand this, but right now we all control this 4th spot in the spotlight row. You take out your mobile phone and open up the PBS app, I'm not going to open it right now, but you just scroll across the top till you get to the 4th slot. It's that same 4th slot. You control that. So we put our shows, the Prime show that we're sponsoring right then, promoting in that top slot. And then also you control the row of WIDA shows or whatever station shows. And we have some local shows in it, but we also mix the local shows in with ones that are hot and with acquisitions. So it's important to put them in prominent positions and rotate them. What's the impact of that top spotlight row spot? Here you have Pride and Prejudice in black, and there's daily streams and Sense and Sensibility in aqua. And on the day that we switched, October 7th, we swapped out Pride and Prejudice episode 1 for Sense and Sensibility episode 1, and you'll see that Sense and Sensibility essentially doubled and Pride and Prejudice fell. That top slot is very valuable for generating streams. Promo, you gotta air spots. So we'll do a real quick look at the spot here. Maybe we'll just do one of them. Let's just do one spot. We'll do the Jane Austen spot. Diggins Collection spots, same idea.
Our stories have touched the hearts of millions. Have you not received my letters?
Excuse me.
Now you can stream the Jane Austen collection with WETA Passport.
It might end up as merry as the rest of it.
From Pride and Prejudice
I would be very happy if you would do me the honor of dancing with me.
to Sanditon, and now featuring Ellen. The Jane Austen collection. Get it today. Passport on the PBS video app.
We are creating clean versions of these spots and sharing them with anyone who wants them. We'll post them to Passport Chat, and anyone who wants to just contact me, and we will send you a clean version of the spot that you can adjust for your station. So you can just put in your, just like PBS does, put in your station branding, and you are good to go. What do we do besides these? We also do lower thirds. So we air these on broadcast. That further increases the interest. We have lower thirds, so they start with "Can't wait for the next episode," and then it says binge the entire series on WeHave Passport. We have seen continuously that airing it on broadcast and promoting it on broadcast, the binge, increases performance for acquisitions and non-acquisitions. Here's one example of Beecham House. Beecham House last year aired on March 1st. Here you see it. This is the weekly streams of Beecham House. Fell. Then our promotion for Beecham House broadcast came. It started ramping up. We started broadcasting on June 14th in week 25. And then you'll see it shot back up again and then came down again. So broadcasting it increases interest in streaming. There's not a negative impact on broadcast. It seems to just kind of lift all boats. So certainly encourage you to get broadcast rights as well if you can and promote it on broadcast. Digital, another promo. I'm not going to really talk about this. This is kind of the obvious multi-channel promotion on website, newsletters, social media, kind of all the same places. And you can pledge it. So our Jane Austen collection has boosted our pledge performance. In November, we did Jane Austen Sundays and pledged them all. And then we did on our final December pledge weekend in December, we pledged Pride and Prejudice, which is the #1 at 15,000. That's pretty darn good for us. And 7,000 for Sense and Sensibility. We had an option for them to sort of select in our the Jane Austen Passport collection as a premium, although we said right at the very top of the page that it would be included in every donation. So 8% actually went and selected that, even though we said that everyone's going to get it. I think the lift is more than that. Others select no gift or a different gift. We sometimes get comments like, I donated to get the Jane Austen combo package and the Passport collection. And actually, when we're airing this, we saw a little bit of bump. It was actually a tangible bump in donations to WeHave.org/passport. So we believe that pledging this boosts pledge as well.
And Jeff, we do have some questions, and I know we only have about 9 minutes left. So 2 questions for you.
Yep.
One of them is BBC will not negotiate price for passport rights, and they're a little too expensive for the station, asking, are you working with other vendors?
So the short answer is no, we're exploring other vendors. Right now, if we find another viable vendor, we will be happy to share it with the system. Right now, BBC Studios is the best game in town. But let me actually talk about that. In a second, we're going to talk about funding this. Did you have another question before I talk about that?
I did, and you may speak to it too. So the question is, this particular station is saying one of their biggest issues is with, one of their biggest issues with our drama programming is the glaring lack of diversity, which is something that their viewers have been commenting that they're concerned with. Do you have any leads on other places to acquire programming? So in both cases, they're asking for other leads on programming.
Yeah, so there's a group that's being organized by Georgia Public Broadcasting, GPB, and you can feel free to contact Georgia Public Broadcasting to sort of look for other foreign sources in particular of dramas. Now that doesn't really tackle the issue of diversity. It's a larger topic, obviously, but we wish there was more diversity, racial, ethnic diversity in British drama. But that's a larger topic. It's not for now. We already talked about a bunch of these. What's available in BBC Studios? All the ones I already mentioned. Emma just came in for the Jane Austen collection, Moonstone. We had success with over a year ago. It's coming March 1st. And then BBC is looking at potentially expanding the Dickens package in May. So a lot of great stuff. But it is all just 12 months from the time when they initially release it. They release it to the system. So you want to kind of think about your timing. I mean, if you're going to move on the Jane Austen collection, I would move on it very soon. It's a great collection, but I would move on it soon. You don't have to buy them all. Just buy Pride and Prejudice, or if you want one that's just come in, just buy Emma. Emma's 4 episodes. That's not that much money based on whatever your per episode price is. And see pricing per episode based on station size, based on market size. How do you fund this? That's really important. So I know different stations that are doing it. Some stations are funding it out of programming. This is a picture of our head programmer, TV programming. Some are funding out of membership. That's that's me. Some are funding it via kind of executive slush funds. I think the key thing is to find the right mix for your station, but don't give up if you don't have the right enough funding in membership or fundraising. Go talk to programming, go talk to other groups, talk to your CEO, let them know, look, we've seen other stations have seen a great return on this. We can start small with one show, let us give it a try and prove it out. And if it proves out, then obviously acquire more. And if it doesn't, then then you can stop. But how we justify the investments, is part of this is about mission. It's about providing content to our viewers and supporters. It's about growing our streaming and multi-channel audiences, which are so important for our future. It's obviously about new donors and just frankly more dollars, and also retaining and super serving all of these passport donors we've been bringing in over the last year. So measuring results, I'm actually not going to go through this. This is, you'll have this in the deck. I'm happy to share it. This is basically just the same things that we already talked about in a calculation. Here's a methodology for calculating the ROI. And remember, there's more value beyond that. Making it happen, identify funding for passport streaming rights, review the BBC Studios passport offering. There's an email, Melissa Green, you can contact her directly at BBC. Activate, use Curate to put it in the right place, plan your strategy, and at WIDA, we're happy to provide assets, including clean copies of those spots. So you've done all this. Now, are these donors worth much, these passport donors? So traditional first give value, when you look at it, people always say, oh, well, passport donors, they're just not worth much. They're $60. My average TV pledge donor is triple that. They're just not worth that much. Well, that's true that they're not the most valuable donors, but they're more valuable than you think. So first of all, they don't actually average $60 because otherwise, I mean, some donors give more than that. Whatever your average is, it should be, it's over 60. For us, it's 73. And here you see these other channels there towards the bottom with direct mail. But if you look at sort of traditional first gift value, TV pledge is about close to 2.5 times the value of a passport donor. But if you look at lifetime value, and our proxy for this is 5-year value, and you take out the acquisition costs, passport donors are a lot more valuable than you think. So the LTV analysis incorporates 3 things that just looking at the first gift does not. First, it incorporates the acquisition costs. So with passport, we have a little bit of acquisition costs from like Google ads and Facebook ads and like Roku ads, but it's pretty small compared to the huge amount of money we're bringing from passport. Direct mail, by contrast, has way more acquisition costs, and TV pledge with premiums, fulfillment, that's a chunk of change there as well. The sustainer rate, passport has the highest sustainer rate of any channel we have, and so that impacts retention. So the high retention rate, these people keep on giving, and then the upgrade rate. Passport donors not so great upgrading. Frankly, the direct mail donors are the best at upgrading. But when you look at this, look at the initial, the blue is the initial year, but then you look at the subsequent years, and you'll see there's a bit of a drop off, but passport tends to maintain its value year after year, whereas some other channels, direct mail actually expands and maintains very well. TV pledge has a steeper drop off, which is often compared to. So the result of that is that, sure, TV pledge and our FN pledge and our online donors are more valuable than the passport donors, but not by as much as you think. So, less than double, actually significantly less than double, kind of 1.5 times or 1.7 times in this case. What does this look like? Well, this is the increase in value. So it's because most of the value of the passport donors after the first gift, you can see that this is kind of the value after the first gift, or the increase in value from the first gift. For TV pledge, it's 126%, but for all these other channels, it's over 200%, including passport. So I'd encourage you to do lifetime value calculations, not just for passport, but really to sort of guide your investment and where you want to put your time and effort. And that's it. I'm sorry, I realize I butt up against the end of time. There's lots more information on passport chat. If you want to join, please email Andy Trimlett. He and the Passport Station user group manage passport chat. Here's his email address. If you have questions, you can email me. And if you want clean versions of BBC, spots for BBC acquisitions, you can CC me and email Bryant Wilson. Okay, I'm sorry, Christina. I realized that ended up being a little long. I'm here.
No, that was wonderful. That was really great. We did have some questions, but I think we can go ahead and answer them after the fact. We're at time, and I know other people might have meetings. Jeff, I want to really thank you for everything. I think specifically sections 1 and 3, the questions just kind of flew in. So perhaps we'll have a follow-up about these topics. So thank you all so much for attending, and I wanted to say thank you for joining us for the Public Media Summit today, day 1. Tomorrow we'll have 3 sessions for you. First up, we're going to be talking about Google Ad Grants and how you can supercharge your program, and how if you're not getting bonus grants, and I mean getting $20,000 a month rather than $10,000 a month, then please come to this session. The second one will be with actually the CRM that you use, Jeff, Roy, the great guys over there and their machine learning. I know, yeah, that you're a big advocate for them. So they're going to be talking about their system and about machine learning. And then finally, we'll end the day with 30 rapid fire ideas in 30 minutes. Jeff, again, thank you so much for just bringing information that everyone really needed to know, for being a wealth of information, for sharing information. I appreciate your time. And with that, we will let you go. Have a great day, everyone. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Bye, everybody.